Since it is 2:00, I will call to order the February 15th, 2022 meeting of the Development Waiver Review Committee. At this time, I would ask everyone to turn off any audible devices. And also, I will introduce myself. I am Ann Lippman. I am the Community Development Director. And I would ask all my counterparts on this committee to turn on their microphones and introduce themselves.
Jason Phillips, County Attorney.
Lori Ashmore, Director of Paulding Water System.
George Jones, Director of Transportation.
Bruce Coyle, County Engineer.
Frank Baker, County Administrator.
Okay, thank you. We will get started. Our first item on the agenda is review of the minutes from the December 21st, 2021 meeting. If everyone has had a chance to review those, if anyone would like to make a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Mr. Jones and a second from Mr. Coyle. Are there any questions about the minutes? If not, I will take a vote. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed would be a nay.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay. We have, minutes have been approved by a vote of 4, 0, and 1. Our first application today is 2022-01-W, application by Jonathan Presley, requesting to waive Pdot recommended regulations of a left and right turn lane for new construction. Property is located in land lot 520, District 2, Section 3, located on the south side of Hay-Renfro Drive and east of Villa Rica Highway in Post 1. Is the applicant, Mr. Jonathan Presley, here? Okay, please come up to the podium.
Good afternoon. I'm Boyd Austin with Key Partners Consulting, and I'm representing the applicant, and I also have with me today Adam Baker with Evergreen Residential. We are here to ask for the waiver on both the left turn lane and the right-hand decel lane into this project. This property was annexed into the city of Dallas, and it will be a limit of 50 units of 55 and older housing. The entrance is at the far eastern boundary of the property, and also it fronts all entry and exit will be made off Hay-Renfro. In your packet you have a traffic study from Mark Akampora, professional engineer, with documentation of the traffic study that was performed. And I think some of the notable things to include is that it would generate 12 trips in the morning peak hour and 15 in the evening peak hours. The nature of this development and the people that will reside there will moderate their activities. There'll be no school buses or anything of that nature that would require turns or stops in front of the project. 85% of the trips, according to the traffic study or more, will be generated from the west, from Highway 61. It will be from the west end and go into the west out at a minimum. The extremely low right turn volume entering the site, 3 in the a.m. and peak in the 7, and the low speed limit on the road is 25 miles an hour. It's a straight section of roadway. We also know that Gdot has plans for widening 61, and in my former life I was a mayor for a long time, and that's been a long time coming. I don't know how long it will be. But they also will be changing Hay-Renfro on that end, lining it up with Venoy Aiken to the north. So we feel like the way that the load and the road and the development lays now, that it's reasonable to ask for that. The number of left turn every day would be 16, which is very low. I think state requirements say something in the nature of 300 would constitute the need for it. The other concern is that some of the concerns that were raised at the annexation and rezoning were increased traffic or increased traffic speed. And also the fact that a left turn lane and a decel lane may create more asphalt space that gives people a perception of a wider road and maybe increased speeds and decreased safety. So the conclusion of the engineer and our ask is that it's advised that waiving the requirements for the decel lane would be reasonable given the conditions. And that the westbound exclusive left turn lane on Hay Renfro is not justified by the number of vehicles and the type of road that exists. Adam, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I can answer any questions.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Question on right-of-way, Hay Renfro.
Get-
They would have to through when they go through the plan review process.
Okay, that'll be a requirement. And as far as giving Gdot right-of-way, are you currently in negotiations with them on 61?
The owner, Ms. Hutchins, has completed the initial talks, I believe. You know if they have,
Yeah, so there was
They completed
there's a
that.
little bit of right-of-way along Highway 61 for her property. I think I think DOT is, from my understanding, is everyone along that stretch has received offers and things like that. And so, and the realignment with the street across the street would not impact the land directly on this parcel as well.
These are septic tank lots?
No, sewer.
No, you're sanitary. Okay.
I will let you know one item. I know it's mentioned there's no school buses. Even in these 55 and older communities, there are school-age kids that can live there. I actually met with the school district last week, and they were actually mentioning in some of these communities, because again, they're not policed. I believe, was it 70%, I think, are 80% are supposed to be age 55 and older. That leaves 20% that, in theory, could be younger than that. But again, it's not police, so they actually do have that. Just wanted to mention that.
and this one also has the HOA and the covenants on it, on reporting those as well and limiting that number. So that's
Are these
well as-
private street? I noticed you got a gate on the
another
drawing.
discussion.
Yeah, so Stuart, I think on this one, no, these are public streets, correct?
That's what City Dallas wanted.
Yeah, city, but, well, it would be a gated community, but, they wanted to keep the streets public. We asked about private, but they ended up saying they wanted them public.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank
You'll
you for
take
your
a seat.
consideration.
At this time, I will ask if there was anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application, if you would like to come forward. Is there anyone who would like to speak expressing opposition, questions, or concerns regarding this application? If so, please approach the podium. Yes, sir. Once you get to the podium, just state your name and address all your comments to me.
My name's Mike Hulsey. I own Dallas Auto Repair straight across the road from the property they're going to use. We have a real hard time getting out of the road now. And I know whenever they four-lane it, it's probably going to be a lot better on us. But we sat there for ever some time. My customers, I mean, they have to turn right when they can't turn left and go down there somewhere else and turn around. That road's a lot busier than people realize. I mean, it's in a bad way as far as traffic on that road. But we do have a real hard time getting in and out of my business.
So you're
And that's
at,
all day long.
or just a question, you're at, across Villa Rica Highway?
Yeah, I own
Okay.
Dallas Auto Repair over there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor or opposition to this application? If not, I will close the public hearing portion of this. Oh, certainly.
I do want to point out that the concerns about traffic were addressed at the annexation and rezoning hearings in the city of Dallas, and that Georgia DOT was consulted about ingress and egress. And so, of course, today, the only thing that matters in this hearing is the request for the waiver on those two requirements, and that's what we would ask for. We don't think it have any impact as far as traffic on 61, other than the use of the entrance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any additional questions at this time? If not, Jason, is this two requests, left and right turn lane? Should we take them together or separate? Is there any preference on the board?
I think they should be separate personally.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's two items. If you're gonna vote them the same way, you can take them together. If you're
Okay.
gonna vote them differently, I take them one at a time.
Okay, I believe we have a request from Mr. Jones to take these separately. So at this point, I will ask for a motion on the request to waive the Pdot recommended regulations of a left turn lane.
Make a motion to approve. Again, that's provided that a full access is granted through plan review.
Second.
I'll second. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll defer to Ms. Ashman.
And just to clarify, when you say left turn lane, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but which way am I headed?
You're headed towards 61.
All right, so it would be the left turn lane heading westbound. Okay.
So we have a motion and second to approve the request to waive the left turn lane headed towards 61. At this time, are there any other questions? If not, I will take a vote on this motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. The motion to waive the required left turn lane has been approved. Our second item for consideration, I ask for a motion on the request to waive the Pdot recommended regulations of a right turn lane for new construction.
Motion to deny.
Second. And clarify, this is the eastbound traveling lane into the subdivision. You want a right turn lane. Yeah, that way, because it does have a gate and vehicles will stack, so it needs some place to stack.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to deny the request for a right turn lane. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, I will take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion to waive the right turn lane has been denied by a unanimous vote. Our second application today is case number 2022-2-W. Application by Jonathan Jones requesting to, 1, waive county development regulations requiring curb and gutter and street lights on 20 feet of public road for less than 2 acres, and 2, waive the Pdot recommended regulations for right and left turn lanes for entrances for new construction. Property is located in land lot 271, District 3, Section 3, east of Dabbs Bridge Road and Cartersville Highway intersection. Project site is Saddle Ridge Subdivision located in Post 4. Is Mr. Jones present?
Yes, ma'am.
And while he's signing in, since he has 2 different requests, we want to take them one at a time as they're listed on our... Yeah, I think it's really 3, but it's 3. So is there any preference on which we'd like to start with? Why don't we start with waiver of the curb and gutter and street lights, because I think those are together, so.
Good afternoon, everybody. The intention for this development is basically an equestrian rural subdivision where there'll be 11 lots located on the west side of the property that'll be located on a public road And then there'll be 3 additional lots that will be on the east side of the property that will also be on a public road. The lots meet all the criteria except for they're not 2 acres. So the variance, for all intents and purposes, is because we're proposing 1 acre lots instead of 2 acres. Our proposal would be to, avoid putting the curb and gutter and the street lights in. That's kind of the gist of it. It's intended to be an equestrian center. They're really, I think any street lights or whatever would actually be a negative to this type of community. It's not your typical community that you would see in Paulding County. This is 33 acres. It's going to be 14 lots. So from a standpoint of, schools and roads and sewer and water, it definitely is a reduction in demand compared to what the property could ultimately be developed under. So I will utilize any additional time to answer any questions you might have about this portion of the variance.
Okay, does anybody on the board have any questions at this time?
Clarification.
Yes, sir.
Your application says 20-foot street. My understanding, Dick section street, 60-foot right of way, 22-foot asphalt, at least 8-foot shoulder, then a ditch. And then likewise need 30-foot radiuses on that asphalt and especially if they're hauling horse trailers.
Yep.
Something
Yep.
they need a decent radius. And then I would assume you do some careful engineering on the ditches, cause it does go up and down some hills.
Yep, it goes down to the creek bottom and then back up.
Designed correctly with matting, riprap. Can you expound upon the water quality, enhancement?
Yeah, so we would,
To ditches in lieu of curbing?
our intent is to use enhanced swales to meet the water quality requirements. These are 1 acre lots, but realistically, you're disturbing a third of that or less. So that is the intent for this type community. There will be, I think, 4 lots on the left side front and 3 lots on the left side east. So those will all be carried by ditch to the creek bottom there, and then the other lots are on the other side of the creek. And our intention is to use enhanced wells in all the aspects to take the water and discharge it into the creek bottom.
That's these 3. So we're just a question. You had come before us back in December for a similar waiver. Was this for the street with August of last year? That was for lots 13 through 15, or lots 13 through 15, the lots to the east of the
It will be
property?
now on a public road system,
Okay.
identical to the other side as Mr. Coyle had just described. That way we're gonna have uniformity instead of doing them on an easement. My client has decided just to do all of them on a public road scenario so that it's all uniform the same and meet the same criteria for both. It'll cost a little bit more money to be that way, but I think ultimately it'll make it a more, give better continuity from one side to the other.
The county has a long-term project to widen Dabbs Bridge Road, and we've mentioned this to you in the past.
Yes, sir.
So make sure that you're working with the property and the houses that are gonna be there to try to offset from the roadway widening as much as possible. If you would
Yes,
take that into consideration.
The 2 houses that are closest to Dabbs Bridge, we plan to shift those as far north as they can with the setbacks. One of them, we gotta make sure that we'll have enough room for septic, but it'll still be shifted away from the right of way in far enough manner that it should not be an issue.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you. Can reserve the remainder of your time. At this point, is there anyone present who would like to speak on behalf of this application? Please come forward. Is there anyone who would like to speak, expressing opposition, questions, or concerns regarding this application? Okay, sir, please come up to the podium, sign in and state your name and direct all of your questions or comments to me.
I have some copies of, especially the map that
Okay.
I'm going to be referring to. I'm going to give them to you.
Okay,
The map is on the last page.
okay.
My name is Glenn Gaines. I'm a resident of the Windrift subdivision, which is directly across the street from this. And as I referenced to the chairperson, the last page was what got me started on this. You'll notice this is a print, and all of my documentation is from Paulding County that I received last week. And if you'll notice, the layout of the houses are actually on the print I'm looking at. You'll notice the creek, and of the several things I have a problem with is this is approximately, not counting the other little sections down, this is approximately 29 acres with 14 houses included in this, and an 8 in the center of it for the, I guess you would call it pasture. The creek running through this has been there a lot of times and is my main issue. I don't agree with the septic plan here. I know from building directly across the street, I built my own house. Shale is a major player in this ridge. The land that you're looking at goes downhill to the creek, which is normal. But I see that we are not in any way have proposed and have done perks on that would be 14 individual perks on this land. It would also be complying with the Environmental Protection Agency on the protection of the creek. And if you'll notice that the creek runs through 6 of the proposed land sites, housing build land sites, which offer reduced area for those houses to build. You can't build in a floodplain, at least my knowledge of it. The original purpose of this whole thing was to cut down and put more houses in when the previous in December was noted by the lawyer that it was zoned as a 2 acre per house. Shifting the roads from a residential road to a private to void the 2 acre mandate is simply a way of trying to get around it, not address it. Again, I wish to have everything tabled until all the perks are done, all of the issues with the creek are done, and every other issue addressed with the size of the housings and the perks of those houses. Now, if you make this an aquarium, not aquarium, but a horse farm, you don't end up with enough space for a pasture, given that there's no limit on the number of animals you can have. You don't have any way of the shelter for those animals. You don't address the drainage off of those animals' waste. And 8 acres is not enough to feed. If you had 14 homes, 2 horses per house, that's 28 horses. They'll go through 8 acres in a couple of days. Now, in an acre, you put a house, a partial if you're in the ones with a creek flood space, you put a shelter for the animals, you're out of space on a 1 acre plot. And I also, whatever is decided, the animals need their own septic system, just like the guy behind me with the dogs did. He put it on his own septic system and got it approved. I should think that happens also here, where it's mandated, not a well, but a disposal system, i.e. a sewer and septic tank. And you've got on mine and on the one you had up there previously, it had the Dabbs Bridge Road. How is the timing between development of this property and the Dabbs Bridge relocation going to intersect with each other? So that is mine, but I want to stress one point. I think until everything is settled from perking on up through the storm drainage and everything, that total on this property be tabled until all the data is on the table and publicly known. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak with questions, concerns, or express opposition? If not, I will state, and Jason help me out, the task of the Development Waiver Review Committee today is only to consider these two waivers that they have requested, which deal with streetlights and curb and gutter. And in a few minutes, we'll be talking about right and left turn lanes. Have these, I mean, ask the applicant if you'll stand back up. Has this project been submitted through the county's plan review process yet?
Has it been submitted through what?
The plan review process. Have you submitted civil plans? for review?
We have submitted plans, but then it generated these waivers, and so
Okay.
that's been put on hold. But to answer Mr. Gaines' question, we have done a level 4 soil on the entire property. We've submitted that to James Major at the Environmental Health Department. He's not formally given us an approval because we've got to get further through the process with you guys before they can give a final approval. This property, unless I am incorrect, is zoned currently R2, which would allow a half an acre per home, which instead of 2 acres per house, it would be a half acre per house. So, you know, I guess legally, if the property's 29 acres, in theory, it could support 58 houses. That's not reality because it does have a creek buffer that goes through it. We will have to adhere to any of the requirements for EPD, but road crossings are an exemption for EPD impacts to the creek crossings. So we will go through the process, but for all intents and purposes, the EPD doesn't rule against road crossings. They can't prohibit access from you to get from one side of your property to the other. Each home is not required to have a horse. It is an equestrian style development. If you have a horse, then you have to have a separate barn on your property that abuts the pasture. So all homes will back up to the pasture, and your barn will have an opening into the pasture so that your horse can seek shelter and other needs as necessary. This type of development's been done in Carroll and Bartow County many times, and so we've mirrored that. There is a creek flowing through here. It does not have a studied floodplain. None of the proposed septic systems and or house construction will be near any floodplain that could potentially be, because there will be a 75-foot impervious setback on both sides of this creek that you cannot put the systems within. And we have met and discussed the Dabbs Bridge relocation with both George Jones and his staff, along with directly with Gdot, many times to come up with a way to allow our road to be built now, and then how it'll transition in the future when that Dabbs Bridge realignment does come into play. So we are, in fact, pretty heavily involved through that process. Other than that, this variance is for the curb and gutter and street lights, and then later on about the left turn lane and deceleration lane. I'll be happy to answer any additional questions, but I just want to address those few concerns.
Okay, thank you. George, do you have any comments on the Dabbs Bridgewood widening?
I'd just say there's two different facets of widening of that project. You got an interim project that's managed by Georgia Department of Transportation to realign Dabbs Bridge Road north of its current location where it meets Highway 61. And then we have a longer-term project that the county is spearheading for a 4-lane Dabbs Bridge Road. But again, that is long-term.
Okay. Does anyone else on the board have any questions at this time? If not, I would ask for a motion on the first request to waive county development regulations regarding curb and gutter and streetlights.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve made by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Coyle. Are there any questions? If not, I will take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed would be nay. That request is granted unanimously. Our second item is to waive the Pdot recommended regulations for right and left turn lane for entrances for new construction. Again, property is located in land lot 271, District 3, Section 3, east of Dabbs Bridge Road and Cartersville Highway. project is called Saddle Ridge Subdivision. Mark, can we get the site plan? I think that might be useful for this, do we have it?
We don't have it.
We don't have it? Okay. My apologies. We have it up here. I just didn't know if we had
We
a
can
copy
put
that we
one
could
under the overhead.
put on the screen. Sure. Need one. Okay, Mr. Jones, if you'd like to come back.
Thank you again. As it relates to the, I'll talk first about the left turn lane. Using the ITE trip generation manual, it was determined that the west driveway, who has the most homes on it, which is 11 homes, would generate roughly 103 vehicular trips per day. That's based on the trip generation manual, 9.4 vehicular trips per day per home. Our anticipated traffic pattern would be 73 of those east coming, from the east side and 31 from the west side. The smaller road that's on the east side of the property would only have 3 homes, and that would generate roughly 28 vehicular trips per day, 20 of which would be from the east direction, and 8 would be from the west direction. When you add those together, even if you combine them, they are less than the threshold as defined by the Gdot manual, where it's 150 vehicular trips per day for a deceleration lane requirement and 250 vehicular trips per day for a left turn lane. This development would roughly produce 131, 103 from one entrance and 28 from the other. So as it relates to the left turn lane, 131 units would be roughly half of what the IT trip generation manual would see as a necessity for requiring a left turn lane. So we are officially requesting that that left turn lane be removed from a requirement. The deceleration lane, obviously the 3-lot scenario on the east would only generate 28 vehicular trips per day. I would assume that would be far below their criteria of 150. The other entrance is 103 total vehicular trips per day. We're estimating approximately 31 coming from the western direction. So it's in our opinion, based on these trip generations, which is the manual that kind of dictates Gdot and how they go about determining what's required for their projects, that this development would meet the requirement and could support the support of this waiver. I'll be happy to answer any additional questions about that.
Does anybody have any questions? I'll start. Are you asking for right and left turn waivers for both entrances, or just?
I don't know that.
Or
I don't know
is
that
the 3 one even required?
Yeah,
Maybe
I don't
that's
think
a
the
question
east
for George.
one would be required for 3. I bring it up because that road has, from the initial time we come to see you till now, we have proposed now for it not to be an easement and be a public road. So
Okay.
I bring it up in
Okay.
conversation. Obviously, 3 lots is probably, well, I would assume would definitely not warrant
I just
a
wanna
left
be
turn
clear
and
while we're here.
deceleration.
The way the regulations are worded for any public street, it's required to have a right turn lane.
Okay,
So
so-
if you, to go through without putting one, it does formally need to be
Yeah.
waived.
So we need,
By luck, I mentioned it. How about that?
yeah, so we need right and left turn considerations for both entrances. So we really have 4 action items, I believe. Does
Yep.
anybody else have any questions? I don't think we have any questions right now, so thank you. At this point, is there anyone who would like to speak on behalf of these applications? If so, please come forward. Don't think there is anybody. Is there anyone who would like to express opposition, questions, or concerns regarding right and left turn lanes on this project? Yes, sir, please come up. No, you do need to come up to the podium.
My leg is not working well. It's been mentioned that there's going to be a 4-lane on Dabbs Bridge. Is that, number one, is that correct? At a future time?
There's like, it's a long-term project, yes, sir, but yeah, based
Well-
on the growth out there, the future land availability.
Well,
Yes.
Dabbs Bridge is basically a paved cow trail. Are they, if this subdivision goes in, and my subdivision and the other houses there, is there going to be a planned red light there.
At this point in time, we're well
Well away
before
from
that point, you basically making that determination. As part of any type of preliminary engineering, they will go through and look at the intersections, the various intersection control, what is required, what they think is needed.
Yeah.
So they'll do analyses on those intersections.
Well, just the school buses is one of the issues because there's 3 separate school buses that come through my neighborhood. So if you do that on the other side, you're gonna have X number of school buses. And also, you're gonna have the traffic that's there on a 4-lane. So that was why I was thinking automatically that, inside of the planning, there would be a red light to start with rather than later on. Can
Yeah,
at least be noted.
Yeah, I mean, obviously your comments here are noted, but, as part of the preliminary engineering process, we go through, we look at the type of road that's needed, is a median needed, is it not recommended?
Yeah.
The intersection controls, whether it be a right in, right out, whether it be a full access, a roundabout, et cetera.
What would be your estimation of time frame, just estimation of time frame?
I really don't want to give you that right now. We had, this was a active project back in the mid-2000s, and then when the economy crashed, this project also, because it did not meet the traffic projections of growth, it also stalled out at that time. And so we're kind of almost at the beginning stages. We're gonna have to take the old data, update it, restart again, and again, get the funding for this project. Roadway widenings are very expensive. They range from $8.5 million to $14 million per mile. So we have to get a program. We're gonna have to see what county funds we can use, and also we're gonna need federal and state help to get this project.
Well, since I'm 76, I just want to make sure this was happening before I was dead.
I'm gonna assume you have a very long lifespan.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to express opposition or has questions or concerns regarding this application? If not, applicant, would you like to make any comments on any of, the last statements made?
I don't think that's necessary unless somebody has any questions directly.
Okay, thank you.
No, ma'am.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I think we really have 4 motions here to make. If I could suggest that we start with waiver request for the right turn lane on the proposed road located to the east. I will take a motion on that.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the request to waive the right turn lane for the eastern road on this project, the Saddle Ridge subdivision. Motion made by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Coyle. If there are no questions about that, I will take a vote. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed would be a nay. That motion is approved by a vote of 5-1. At this point, I will ask for a motion on request to waiver the left turn lane on the eastern public road proposed in Saddle Ridge subdivision.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve waiver of the left turn lane on the eastern road of Saddle Ridge subdivision, made by Mr. Jones and seconded by Ms. Ashmore. If there are no questions about this, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed would be a nay. The motion is approved by a vote of 5-0. Our third request here is on the western road of Saddle Ridge subdivision to waive the right turn lane. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to waive the right turn lane on the western road of Saddle Ridge subdivision made by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Coyle. Are there any questions? If not, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed would vote with nay. There are none. The motion is approved unanimously. And the last item would be waiver of the left turn lane on the western road of Saddle Ridge subdivision. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I think Ms. Ashmore got it. We have a motion to approve waiver of the left turn lane on the western road by Mr. Jones and seconded by Ms. Ashmore. Are there any questions? If not, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Be nay. There are none. That motion is granted unanimously. I think that is everything on our agenda today. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.